What is up, everyone? It's Lan here with another episode of the Cheeseheadz Weekly Podcast. It is good to be with you here today. We are coming off a great draft weekend, and it's exciting again to be here with you, Talk Packers, and to talk this new batch of rookies that we got in the draft. So we will go over it here in a little bit. Before we do, though, it would be great if you could support the show. We got the Q&As and the polls on Spotify. So be sure to check that out. We really appreciate the participation in those. There's also a link in the description of every single episode of the show to send in a voice message. You can send in a question or really anything you want, some advice to me on how to make the show better. I certainly would appreciate that as well. Show is available about everywhere you get your podcasts, not including Amazon Music. It is also available on YouTube at Cheeseheadz_weekly. Be sure to check us out there. Subscribe. If you want, you can hit the bell icon there and on Spotify to notify you of new episodes which come out every single Tuesday. Be sure to tell your friends about the show. That would be amazing. All your Packers friends. And you can also rate the show on Spotify, and you can rate and review on Apple Podcast. Also, you can follow me on social media at Cheeseheadz_W on X, at Cheeseheadz_weekly on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and you can check out our website at greatcove.net/Cheeseheadz. So the Packers got through the draft with a full, 11 draft picks, which is what they started out with, which they did do a little bit of trading. I'm trying to look at the trade here. So the first one happened on day 2. They stayed put. Day 1, drafted offensive tackle Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. So they got him in the first round. In the second round, then, they were able to they decided to trade down from pick 41 to number 45. Cooper DeJean had fell into the second round, was picked just before that after the Eagles traded up. I don't think that had any influence on the move. We'll get into that maybe a little bit here. But they moved back 4 spots, number 41 to number 45. They traded with the Saints, and they got another 5th rounder and a 6th rounder. The 5th rounder, number 168 overall, and number 190 overall in the 6th round from New Orleans. And then there were other trades as well. I will see if I can bring those up. They traded also with the Jets. I believe this was the only other trade. Traded up from 126 to 111. So this would be, I'm not even sure, in the 4th round. Possibly. I'm not sure. So, at any rate, they traded up 15 spots, it looks like. And they had to get rid of the number 126, which is where they're trading up from in the 190. And then a third trade with the Buffalo Bills to move up in the 5th round. This was just moving up 5 spots. They moved up from 168 to 163 and had to trade away the number 219. So those were the trades that they made. Let's see, I guess traded up twice and traded down once is what happened there. And we'll go over who all they got. So like I said, first round, they are on the clock, and it was a record of, I believe, 24 offensive players selected in the first round. Lots of offensive players going off the board just early on in the draft in the first round. So that was definitely interesting. And the Packers' needs are on defense, so it was actually beneficial for the Packers. But they were one of the teams that ended up picking an offensive player. Now, let me just look down here who was on the board. A lot of defenders fell. Quinyon Mitchell, one of the top corners, fell all the way to number 22, was picked by the Philadelphia Eagles. Terrion Arnold, the cornerback from Alabama, who most people would say is the number one corner in the draft class, ahead of Quinyon Mitchell, he fell all the way to 24, one pick before the Packers. The Detroit Lions actually traded up ahead of the Packers to get him. The Packers stayed put at 25 and drafted Jordan Morgan, an offensive tackle from Arizona. Now, fans immediately began overreacting to this pick. They did not like it because guess what? Graham Barton, for one, famous, very popular Packers mock draft pick, was still on the board. He went one pick after to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma, went to the Cowboys at 29. He was still on the board as well for them. Nate Wiggins, the cornerback from Clemson, was on the board, who I basically knew they weren't going to pick because of the size. And then Cooper DeJean was also on the board, and he fell all the way out of the first round and almost made it to 41, back around to when the Packers picked again. I'm not sure the Packers would have picked him there either. And as the Packers GM would say, no player is fully off the board. I would certainly hope DeJean isn't off the board with his athleticism and versatility, but it is clear that the Packers really like Jordan Morgan. As soon as they were on the clock, they immediately ran that pick in, and it was Jordan Morgan. Big surprise, or was it? This is very Packers-esque. I admit I was surprised because he was not even on my short list. Now, again, I've not scouted very much. In fact, maybe not as much as even last year. I feel like I'm a little bit out of it compared to some people. So I did not really listen to any scouting reports to do anything on Jordan Morgan or that many offensive linemen at all, really, because, they're not as fun. And so I really knew nothing about Jordan Morgan other than I had seen him going to the Packers in a few mock drafts. Now, a lot of people said this is a little bit of a reach. Perhaps it was. Consensus Sports says it's a reach, which really doesn't mean a whole lot until you actually see the player play anyway. But it could be a little bit of a reach, but again, this is the classic Packers pick because it is a home run swing. This guy has all the main physical traits needed. He has great athleticism. He posted a 9.24 RAS score as a tackle, and as a guard, it would be a 9.82 RAS score, so he's an elite athlete. Now, his arm length is 32.875 inches, slightly short, and slightly shorter than the Packers threshold at 33 inches. That is their typical threshold for offensive linemen or offensive tackles, as far as just what they like to draft, especially in early rounds, at offensive tackle. So is it possible he's moving to the inside? Well, the Packers definitely think he can play at tackle. Otherwise, they probably would have picked Graham Barton. So it's obvious they think he can play at tackle. They said as much. They said that he can play. They believe he can play at 4 positions along the line, which would be all the positions other than center. So a very versatile athlete. They like the versatile athletes. Does not quite reach the arm length threshold, but The RAS score absolutely is what they look for. It has all the athletic traits that they're looking for an offensive lineman. The age is good. I'm not sure how old he is, but I'm probably like 21, because they don't like to typically pick old guys. And he is raw, a little bit raw, and that is why. And he's just an offensive lineman, not the guy that Packers fans were so excited about. But good frame, and two-time team captain, great off the field, great in the locker room, great leader, teammate, which is very important to the Packers organization, and very important to me as a fan as well. So he really could compete, and it's possible even start the year as a starter along this line. People are like, oh, he's just going to be a backup tackle anyway, or like he's not going to be able to beat out any of these guys on the offensive line. Oh, no, he's going to compete to start right away. This guy is the real deal. Certainly he could use some development, and that's why this pick is especially great, because they got guys that can start right now. But if he develops the way they think he can, and to what they think he can be, then he will absolutely be a starter on this line for sure, and make this line better. And again, the goal is to protect your new franchise QB, Jordan Love, and we love to see that as well. So Jordan Morgan, he is one of those low floor, high ceiling type of athletes, the type of home run selection that the Packers typically take in the first round. Just go back to last year, Lucas Van Ness. You could tell even in his first year, not very well-rounded, needs some help with his technique perhaps, but very gifted athletically, and made some impact plays in his rookie year, and just is kind of the developmental guy, and can eventually, the type of guy that the Packers hope can eventually turn into an absolute star. That is what they saw in Morgan, and they saw some things that are fixable, and that they think they can do, and they do have great offensive line coaching, and they think he can really become a great player on this offensive line. Brian Gutekunst says this: big man, left tackle, really good athlete, can play out in space. Ability to play all four positions for us. Been a left tackle mainly there, but we think he can move inside to guard. He has power in his lower body, can move people off the spot. He's just wired like a Packer. Two-time team captain, a really good dude. That is Brian Gutekunst, Packers general manager. So there you go. And he said it. He's just wired like a Packer, and he absolutely is. So while I wasn't really, really excited about this pick immediately, it's growing on me. I think this is an overall good pick, and maybe I'll do draft grades a little later. So then, again, they traded down to pick 45 in the second round, and they still were able to draft linebacker Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. Great linebacker, most people would say top linebacker in the class, and really great player at a great position of need for the Packers there at linebacker. Really big fan of this pick. Many times mocked to the Packers. Many Packers fans really like this pick. And again, this is kind of like last year. Packers, that home run selection, And I did, this one surprised me a little more than last year's. I did predict that they would draft Lucas Van Ness correctly, even if it wasn't on the show. But it just wasn't really the exciting pick. And then day two, they started addressing real needs instead of just going, kind of best player available on their board. It's kind of what they like to do in the first round, even if it's not a huge need, although offensive line is certainly a big need. Then they start beefing up at positions of need. So in day 2, they get Edger and Cooper. I won't go too much into detail. 9.13 RAS score. Great athlete. What they look for there. And then at pick 58 in the second round, they got safety Javon Bullard out of Georgia. They love to pick those Georgia defenders. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Very versatile. Versatile safety, can play in the slot, in the box, can play the post. Earned an elite coverage grade at both slot corner and deep safety in 22 and 23. He is a confident and fearless tackler, especially against the run. Loves really good playing downhill. Little on the smaller side, but not bad. Posted a 8.25 RAS score. Packers seem to like him. He seems like a classic Packer in the secondary. He's got that swagger, the Jair Alexander, Xavier McKinney type. Very tenacious, it sounds like. And it sounds like he can do a little bit of everything. I honestly was not a huge fan of him going into the draft just because I thought, well, he's not a amazing athlete, RAS score over 8. But if you look at him, for one thing, he did not qualify for explosion grade, did not do the broad jump, only did the vertical jump, which was not great. 33 inch, that's higher than I can jump, so I'm sure he'll be fine. But his agility grade was great, and his speed grade was great. So that is what you want to, or speed grade was actually elite, and the agility grade was great. So that's what you want to see. He's plenty. If he's a good enough athlete for the Packers, he's a good enough athlete for me. And hopefully he can be that interchangeable safety next to Xavier McKinney that we're looking for. And my guess is he's a day 1 starter at safety. I don't think he's going to have any trouble beating out Anthony Johnson Jr. So, Gutekunst's definitely got his guys. This is definitely his type of guy, that he was really looking for at the safety position that can do everything. They're interchangeable, versatile, and you can do whatever you want with them, basically. Then in the third round at pick 88, another surprise for me was the pick of running back Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. I did not see the running back pick coming early on the draft. I said earlier, I'm not sure if I did on this show. I did over on Fun Football Pods episode that I did with him live on X. And I said I don't think the Packers would take a running back until day 3, or at least I don't think they should. But I was wrong, and now that I think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense as well, because while running back is not a premium position, and a position where players typically don't last long, and Marshawn Lloyd, maybe I should look this up so I don't get myself in a jam. I thought maybe he was an older back as well, but I'll just look here. He is. He's 23 years old, so an older back as well, but really great athletically, which is something the Packers like, which is actually his RAS score does not reflect as much of a freak athlete as I thought he was, and he did not do agility testing, but an 8.62 RAS score, that's plenty good for the Packers. He is a bigger back, but yet he does have the speed, 4.46 speed, which is great for running back. But size is he's 5'8", and about 5'8 and a half, weighs 220, put up really good reps on the bench press, strong back, and the main issue with him is the vision issues. He's good. He has the build of a guy who can pass block. According to Andy Herman, he didn't show it a ton on film. We'll see where that goes. Does not really have the profile of a high-volume back, but he has great burst and promise as a pass catcher, and some patience. And I'm not sure how all it's going to work because he does have a few vision issues from what I've heard. He likes to really bounce the runs outside. And it's not really great between the tackles right now. I think he could get better, and he it was one of only 5 FBS running backs to average more than 7.0 yards a carry. Overall, I'm not a. Obviously, it's an exciting pick. I was not, like I said, a little bit surprised. But now that I think about it, if you remember, a few years ago, the Packers drafted A.J. Dillon in the 2nd round, and some people thought that was a little bit of a reach for one thing, but they wanted a great back to complement Aaron Jones. Who knows how many times, how long Josh Jacobs is going to be around here. A.J. Dillon certainly does not seem like he's going to be around for too much longer. They didn't even want to bring him back this year, really. And, they didn't want to pay him what they thought they were going to. They just got him back at a really cheap deal, hometown discount. But Marshawn Lloyd provides them another weapon in that offense that already is, full to the brim of weapons. So that will be good, and you never know when injuries could hit. And should be interesting. Emmanuel Wilson might not be able to make the 53, and they were talking about one point that he could be the number 2 back. So could be interesting how that works out at the running back position, but just an embarrassment of riches in that offense and now at running back and receiver, and it should be a lot of fun to watch this offense. But it's clear that the Packers really value running back in this Matt LaFleur offense that likes to run the ball a fair amount, and they want to make sure they have a good established running game because you saw what Jones did for them down the stretch last year. On to the next pick. At the 91 overall pick in the 3rd round, also linebacker Tyron Hopper out of Missouri. This one was a head-scratcher to some because Peyton Wilson was on the board as well, who arguably a number 1, number 2-ish linebacker. I would have him at number 2 behind Edge Cooper, who they got. But I don't mind it because obviously the Packers had him higher on their board. Cedric Gray, linebacker out of North Carolina, was also on the board. A lot of Packers people also liked him. I haven't really scouted any of these guys a ton, but I have heard the injury issues. I mean, Peyton Wilson fell a good ways before. Guess who? Steelers picked him up. That is exactly what happened last year with another guy with injury concerns that we found out about later, Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, who we thought the Packers could target. And then he went to the Steelers. This is the same thing. Fell a long ways, went to the Steelers. They pick up all the injured guys. But from what I've heard, Peyton Wilson does not even have an ACL in one of his knees. I don't know what happened. I guess if he just didn't have surgery when he tore it, like that's what they used to do. They used to not have ACL surgeries. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but I'm guessing if the Packers had injury concerns, they're not going to pick him, and that's also a reason many other teams did not pick him either, and he fell a good ways. Apparently, the Packers clocked Hopper here in the high 4.5s in the 40-yard dash. Great speed for a linebacker. If we look at his RAS score, not actually all that great. His explosion grade is great. 40-yard dash on here is not good. Apparently the Packers clocked him faster. That's why they were willing to take him. 4.68 in the 40. Good 20-yard split. Which all of this is not that bad for a linebacker. And apparently they think he's faster. He seems to look really good on tape, from what I've heard. 6'1.5", 231 for the size. Agility grade was not great. That was really what was bad. But Brian Gutekunst had this to say about the pick. really about Hopper, I guess. He's really physical, he can run, but his stopping power when he takes on blockers is really impressive. Very serious-minded guy. I think he really helped change that defense. The Missouri defense this year was excellent. They had a number of good players, but I think they were very well coached there. Another one of those programs where he felt really good about taking someone out of that program because of how they do things there. But his stopping power as a tackler was really impressive. Mentions that twice there. His stopping power when taking on blockers and then when tackling as well. Very serious-minded guy, and that's another Packers fit as well. Good off the field. So I don't know why they wanted to take him over Cedric Gray. I think he's probably more athletic than Cedric Gray, maybe, and that certainly could play a factor. But now in that linebacker room, they have Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper as the main starters when they're in nickel, which they will be most of the time. And then guys like Isaiah McDuffie and Hopper, who those two can probably compete for that number 3 linebacker spot. And so it provides pretty good depth in that room now with special teamers like Welch and Wilson in there as well. In the 4th round, number 111, traded up a good ways to get this guy, safety Evan Williams out of Oregon. Now again, this was a head-scratcher for some with Jaden Hicks falling in the draft and still on the board. Apparently the Packers had good reason to not pick him, and they took their second safety of the day. Or not the day, this is day 3 now, I guess, of the draft, the weekend. And they took Evan Williams, originally from Fresno State, transferred to Oregon. And great playing downhill and a solid tackle. Packers believe he can play deep and in the slot while also being a plus run supporting defensive back. Goody moved up 15 spots in the 4th round to get him when, Jaden Hicks was still on the board, like I said. So again, apparently Packers liked him, not so much Hicks. But should be interesting to see how it all works out. Sam Seal, national scout for the Packers. He's smart. He's instinctive. He's a good kid. He makes tackles, makes plays around the ball. He's always around the ball. I think he'll fit into our locker room because he's a good guy. We won't have to worry about him. That's what we like to hear. RAS score 8.20, not bad. 5'11", 200 pounds. Put up good reps on the bench press as well. Speed is okay, according to this, but it's not too bad. I'm sure he'll be fine. And my guess is he'll be used mostly in the box anyway, perhaps in the slot as well. But what does it say here? They do believe he can play deep as well. So we'll see how it works out. But another body in there. They need a ton of depth at safety. They got it, and I'm really happy with how that's shaping up coming out of the draft. Now another controversial pick here in the 5th round at 163. Offensive lineman Jacob Monk out of Duke, Graham Barton's teammate in college. Box checker for the Packers along the offensive line. Experienced, versatile, athletic. 3 things Packers really look for in offensive linemen, especially tested like an elite athlete and movement and strength. 2-time captain, started 58 total games, and the Packers think he has the athleticism and intelligence to play multiple positions in the NFL, and who knows, he has the potential to be a future replacement for Josh Myers at center, where I believe he played a lot of in college. He also played right tackle and guard, so he does have experience there as well. Likely a center guard swing player in the NFL, but yeah, could be another guy that plays all 5 positions. For some reason, it seems like some people had an undrafted, like he was ranked to be an undrafted rookie, and they drafted him in the 5th round, which they did that with Sean Clifford as well, who a lot of people thought would go undrafted, but I don't know. He's got a 9.74 RAS score at center. That's quite the athleticism. So I don't think he's going to be a problem, and really like I really like the versatility. Don't mind the pick at all. Now this guy, fun fact, has a very rare allergy to cold water. Not really sure how that would work. If you I guess it's if you drink it and touch it. You're doing both when you're. That's just crazy. The Packers training staff's gotta have to be careful about this. Don't give this guy cold water. You gotta make sure his water's warm or something, or just give him Gatorade the whole time. It's honestly not a bad thing, because I've heard your body can only use water, or can use water faster when it's warmer, because if it's cold, your body has to warm it up before it can be used to benefit you. So if you're drinking warm water, that's actually better for you. No one likes to do it, but so there you go, Jacob Monk. Maybe that's why he's so athletic. He has to drink warm water, and he just really reaps the benefits of that. All right, 5th round. A lot of Packers fans like this one. 169 overall safety, Katana Ladapo, out of Utah, Cole Bishop's teammate, who was another Packers potential target. I believe he went in the 3rd round. Big physical safety, built for defending the run and playing robber as strong safety / in the box type. Led all drafted safeties in run defense grade last season per PFF, and guess what? They got this guy in the 5th round. That's pretty cool. Packers think he has big nickel linebacker potential. That could be interesting. Looks like a rotational player early in his career, which, makes sense. But 3rd safety drafted in the 5th round. I really like the depth in this room. Really good draft as far as safety and linebacker, I think, for Brian Gutekunst. 3-year starter at Oregon State. Versatile safety. And let's look at his size, because it's a real nice size. 6'2", 216. Gotta love that. And an 8.18 RAS score. Very nice. Did not test in the agilities, but yeah. I've not really scouted him at all, but from what I've heard, pretty good player, and what Packers fans really like this one. Also, as far as weaknesses and just the overall, doesn't have great speed. 4.58 in the 40. The fact that he's bigger. He doesn't have ideal top-end speed or the rangy ball skills for deep coverage, so likely more of a strong safety box type guy. But should be fun watching him put some hits on people. Now here's a pick I'm not terribly excited about. 6th round, 202 overall. Travis Glover, an offensive tackle out of Georgia State. Really has a lot of experience at offensive tackle, and has a massive frame and incredible length, and that kind of impeded his athleticism. 4.71. Athleticism from a small school as well. Not really an explosive athlete, but he has experience at both tackle and guard, and just can provide depth. Kind of that late round guy that they've been picking up, like Caleb Jones, Luke Danuta type maybe. So we'll see what happens. Not really excited just because he's put up a 4.71 RAS score. That's not great, but hey, he's a big guy, so it could be interesting. And then this is something I predicted that they would do. 7th round, 245 overall. They picked QB, quarterback, perhaps I should say, Michael Pratt out of Tulane. He was a 4-year starter at Tulane. Very very much a developmental guy, I guess. Packers did get a pretty good value on him. Most people thought uh, he would go earlier, but he will have a chance to win the backup job behind Jordan Love, with Sean Clifford already on the roster. Excuse me, getting my tongue twisted up here. He operates with rhythm from the pocket, but he needs to continue developing his feel to spot the rush, my goodness, and hasten his process when needed. He does not have high-level physical traits, but he doesn't panic, and he has a natural sense for where to go with the football. And who knows, might have starting upside eventually. Here is Matt LaFleur on this guy. I think he's a guy that he definitely is a tough, fearless thrower. And that to me is a prerequisite with the position. You've got to be able to stand in there and throw in muddy pockets, throw in the face of pressure, and I think he exhibited that. I think he's a winner, so we were excited. We were kind of shocked that he was still there in the 7th. Like I said, pretty good value. Athletically, did not test in any of the speed, did not test in the 40-yard dash. But RAS score was good otherwise. 8.28 for the RAS score. So very nice there. And the Packers' last pick here in the 7th round, 255 overall, cornerback Kalen King out of Penn State. Kind of that underrated guy like Carrington Valentine. And this is also comparable to the Dontavian Wicks pick and Jordan Love as well in some ways. He was considered a potential first-round pick after a dominant 2022 season, but he majorly regressed in 2023 and did not test well. Packers picked him. That's kind of the situation with Jordan Love and Wicks. They regressed their final college season, but Packers saw something in them, and it's worked out with those two players, seemingly. So, who knows? But that's crazy, considering he was a potential first-round pick, and he was the Packers' last pick in this draft. RAS score 6.68, like they said, like it says here. Yeah, just did not test well. Kind of meh overall. 40-yard dash, 4.61 was all it was. But inconsistent tackling, coverage, spacing, and feel for when to take chances is kind of an issue. And he was actually viewed as a possible safety candidate for several NFL teams. He is a fluid athlete, though, with aggressive play personality, which is, what you want at corner. So we'll see. Should be fun, but a lot of guys like this pick as well because just the potential he has shown. We know that he does have a little bit of a ceiling to him. So there you go. There's my brief breakdown of the picks. Maybe I will do draft grades. I just have not had time to think about it a ton. Been kind of out of it, really busy over the weekend, so didn't follow the draft real close. But overall, I think a pretty good draft for the Packers. I'm excited to see how these guys can do. Got some great depth at offensive line, safety, and linebacker, which would be their 3 top positions of need if you ask me. And, hey, got another fun offensive weapon in Marshawn Lloyd as well. So, should be fun. Packers definitely primed to make a run next year, and it should be interesting to watch and see what all happens. As far as my biggest surprise for the draft, that would be the Falcons at number 8 taking Michael Penix after they just signed Kirk Cousins to a humongous contract in the offseason. Not really sure what they're thinking, especially since Penix is an older quarterback to begin with. But, wow. Shocker. I'm not sure if anyone can figure out really why they did this, but according to Falcons brass, Kirk Cousins does not have to look over his shoulder. Kirk Cousins was also kind of surprised. He was told they were going to pick someone, but probably, mid-round, late round-ish. Nope, they're picking Penix at number 8, which most people consider a reach for him. I mean, they picked him over J.J. McCarthy, who went at number 10 to the Minnesota Vikings. I thought he was the Vikings guy. I also thought the Vikings would be more aggressive trying to get him, but he fell to them anyway. Actually, the Vikings did trade up one pick with the Jets. I'm not sure why. Maybe they thought the Jets would take him. Certainly possible, but they do have Aaron Rodgers, and they were content to move down one pick, get another pick in the later rounds, and grab Olamayiwa Fashanu. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Offensive tackle out of Penn State. A great prospect, and great for the Packers, the Jets as well, with Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury, and you definitely got to protect them. Their offensive line was a train wreck last year. As far as within the division here, number 1 overall, no surprise, Caleb Williams to the Bears. They got their quarterback at number 9. They picked Rome Odunze, beefing up that offense. He's going to be their number 3 receiver behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. All these guys, if Rome Odunze pans, the Bears potentially could have 3 wide receiver ones, which is crazy. Offense is looking really good over there, and that's really what you got to do. I think the Bears did some really good things to beef up that offense to help Caleb Williams, get off to a good start. So kudos to them for that. If we look here at I mentioned the Vikings pick, got their quarterback for the future. We'll see. My guess is they'll start out Sam Darnold, but I doubt Darnold will last long. I think McCarthy will be in there sooner than later, but got their quarterback of the future. And also picked top edge rusher in the draft, Dallas Turner out of Alabama. So that's a big one for them as well. Premium position player. The Lions, again, traded up out of the Packers to get the cornerback, Terrion Arnold, out of Alabama. Pretty good value for them. He fell a good ways. So they get their guy there as well. So that's their first round, just within the division there. That will about do it for me today. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I will be back next Tuesday to probably give draft grades. We'll see what I decide to do. Got a lot of other stuff going on right now, but thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you later. Go Pack, go.